Paducah, Kentucky. I want everybody, first of all, to put your hands together for the woman who organized this whole thing, Cher Ford McCullough.
Thank you, Derek. I'd like to first welcome and thank all of you for coming here today. It's our second annual Million Marijuana March in Paducah, and we were growing. It's a lot bigger than it was last year, so it'll just keep growing every year. We have some very exciting speakers here today and some excellent musicians as well. Our march this year, the Kentucky March, is dedicated to Tom Crosland and to Raleigh Rahm from Rainbow Farm, who were systematically executed by our government over Labor Day weekend on their private property known as the Rainbow Farm Campground in Vandalia, Michigan. It was a hip-friendly place. They always welcomed the activists, and just all kinds of people from all over the country would go there and live in peace for several days and enjoy the music and enjoy the herb and enjoy each other. And it was a real sense of freedom that was actually turned out to be a false sense of freedom, not just for Tom and Raleigh, but for all of us. So this march and today is going to be dedicated in their memory, and in the hopes that that doesn't happen again in this country, because war is not a domestic policy, and we are at war with our government, and they are the ones that declared it, and we are the victims of their war, just as Tom and Raleigh were, although we're not dead yet. There are also patients dying, medical marijuana patients that are dying, because the government continues to withhold their medication, which is cannabis. And in my opinion, whether a bullet is being put in your head or whether they're withholding your medicine and you die, it's still murder. So we have to organize and realize that our government is not compassionate. We need to instruct our Congress. As voters of this country, we need to instruct our Congress, because they are also our public servants. We elect them. They work for us. We need to start acting like it. We need to instruct them to change the marijuana laws in this country. There is too many people being arrested. There are too many people dying, people that are guilty of nothing more than smoking God's green herb. It does not make us criminals. It does not make us terrorists. It makes us average human beings, Americans, voters. We are voters. Get registered and vote. These dinosaurs that don't want to do things the new way and that refuse to come into the light of the year 2002, we need to get these dinosaurs out of office, because they are not thinking clearly. I guess they're Alzheimer's, or maybe they just need to smoke a joint. I don't know. But it's not working. What they're doing is not working. We're going to turn this beautiful stage over to Derek DeCrane, who ran the stage at Rainbow Farm for many years. And I have to say it was excellent on the Naked Hippie slide. Slide, you sons of bitches, slide. It was too much fun, and hopefully God will provide us another place where we can go and make the pretense of being free in this country. So I'm going to turn it over to Derek, and we're in for an exciting day, so give a big hand for Derek.
Thank you, Cher. The real round of applause goes to Cher, because she organized everything today and made this possible. And I know she's got a bang-up team of people that help her, and I don't know all their names, but I'm sure that they've done a lot in preparing for such an event. The second most important thing I need to do is thank all of you people for having the balls to show up today. I became a marijuana activist in 1990, and I had just a hell of a run for 12 years until last year. We had just an unstoppable force, and we built literally a hippie sanctuary. And we had about 60 acres of land, and we let 6,000 hippies come in for the weekend on Memorial Day and Labor Day weekend, and we would let them express their freedoms and do what they so chose, as long as they weren't harming other people. And we never had a problem there. There was never a single fist fight there. There was never any hassles, because Rainbow Farm was governed by what was called the Peace Police. And that's exactly what they were. And we established the Peace Police in hopes that someday Rainbow Farm would get as big as like Disneyland, and then the actual police would mold and you know, get their cops to kind of take lessons from the Peace Police, because if our Peace Police would catch you smoking a joint, they'd wave and drive on by in their little golf carts and say, "Hey, you guys having a good time?" And I know that, you know, when you guys are out here in Paducah, the police are so friendly here, they all stop and wave out of the cop cars. "Hey, you guys having a good time tonight? Yeah, well, hope you like Paducah." They don't do that? Okay, well, they don't do that in my town either. But the concept of Rainbow Farm is what we're trying to promote all over the country, because it wasn't about a race, and it wasn't about a religion, and it wasn't about a belief or anything. It was about being an individual, and it was about respecting each other for your beliefs and your rights. And, you know, if you want to be a little different, well, that's okay, because you're you, and you have the right to express yourself in any way you so choose. With that concept in mind, we, of course, come upon the marijuana subject, which I find myself more times than not telling things to crowds that they already know. And I find that as a big puzzle, because everywhere I go in the country, a lot of people say, "Man, you know, I hear that stuff all over the country." And there's a lot of people like myself that are going around to events just like this one and talking to people like yourselves. And if we all realize that we're right, and we all realize that what we're doing is beneficial, not only is it not a crime, but it's beneficial. You can do something for no reason. You can do something that's wrong. Even doing something for no reason is okay. That's beneficial. It helps people and saves people's lives. And it could be as simple as something, you know, that if you smoke a joint after work, it keeps you from flipping some guy off while you're driving down the road. It spreads the peace and spreads the love. And that's why I'm here today. I'm going to say a few things to you guys off and on throughout the day. I'm not proud or tired, and I'm not afraid to compete with that horn. Because no matter how loud they try to blow the horn to cover up the pot demonstration in Paducah, Kentucky, I got a big ass mouth and I'm pretty loud, see? I think that's why they asked me to come down from Michigan, because Michigan must be notorious for people with big, loud mouths. So here I am in beautiful Kentucky, competing with state and federal authorities, trying to thwart our efforts of marijuana legalization. This is a really pleasant change, because in my state, they don't come at you with a loud horn. They come at you with a loaded rifle, and they kill you, and they exterminate you, and it's an execution where I live. And that's sad, and it's scary, and to be quite honest, I'm moving out of my state very soon because of it. Because my state doesn't see the light. And right now, I don't think any states see the light. But we're going to talk to a few people today that'll help you guys understand why each and every one of you need to go today and tomorrow and the next day and the day after that and talk to people and convince people. My campaign last year with my speaking and stuff, I decided that my whole angle was going to be tell your grandparents that you smoke pot. And a lot of people said, that's crazy, man. My grandma's going to freak out when I tell her I smoke pot. And I say, yeah, but does your grandma love you? And they say, yeah, she loves me, man. She makes me cookies and brownies and all that. You know, so obviously if your grandparents love you that much, they don't think you're a bad person. And they would understand, their love would see past you smoking a little pot. And they'd understand that even though my grandchildren smoke a little pot, they're still good people. That's what's wrong. Right now, we have a generation gap. The old people aren't voting with the interests of the young people. The old people don't understand that their grandkids are being yanked out of their cars and thrown on the hood and patted down like they're some second-rate animal and locked in a cage and fed substandard food and treated like crap. Your grandparents don't understand that, so you need to go and sit down with them and say, Grandma, Grandpa, I love you guys with all my heart and I smoke pot because it makes me feel better and it makes me a more personable, peaceful person. And I don't want you to think any less of me, and your grandparents are going to respect that because you're being honest with them, first of all. And then they're going to talk to their friends and they're going to say, you know, my grandson had a talk with me about marijuana today. And then it's going to go like a big wave, and it's going to go through all the old folks' homes and all the elderly people around the country. Then, through their grandchildren, would be pro-marijuana. Think about it. It's all about communication, folks. And I do everything I can. Like I say, I've been doing this since 1990. And I've been very, very fortunate because I've only been doing this a short amount of time, and there are people that have put in much more effort and much more hard work than myself. As a matter of fact, our next guest speaker up, I would like you guys to pay close attention to what this woman's got to say. She's been an activist longer than I've been alive. She is what we like to call one of the few and proud free people left in America. Let's put your hands together for Kathy Lyons.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank everybody who came out today. I want to thank especially Cher and Brian and Paula, all the people who got this organized. I don't know how old you are, but I was thinking about it today. I graduated from high school in 1972. I'm going this year for my 30th class reunion. I didn't smoke pot in 1972, but I didn't see any reason why it should be illegal. My daddy didn't see any reason why it should be illegal. He grew hemp for years. And when the drug war started, he was appalled that they would class marijuana with cocaine. Daddy said, I've smoked that shit. I'd rather have moonshine. Daddy was prohibited from growing hemp, one of the two cash crops that farmers in western Kentucky could produce. Now they're trying to take away the other one too, which is tobacco. So I'm an advocate for both, because I'm an advocate of freedom. And many years ago, I met a lawyer that I could respect. There aren't many of those out there. I know of two that I hold a great deal of respect for, and one of them I can call a personal friend. I'm going to introduce him to you. I first heard of Gatewood Galbraith, and I thought, that man's crazy. He's walking up and down the streets, just daring people to arrest him. And then I realized he's right. He bills himself as the last free man in America. Well, I decided that freedom is promised by our Constitution, by our Declaration of Independence. And maybe there's work for me to do too. And so I encouraged Gatewood. I worked for him when he ran for office. I wrote him encouraging letters. And then on one day in 1998, he called my bluff. And I got a bigger mouth than any siren anyway. I'll talk over it too. Gatewood said, if you really want to do something for Kentucky, come out and help me. Be my running mate. I didn't know until then how much courage I really had. Can I really step out there and take that final step and say, all right, I'm going to do something instead of sitting back and talking about it. Instead of just writing letters to the newspaper and gabbing to my friends, I'm going to do something. And I was honored to be asked to be his running mate in the 1999 election for governor. And let me tell you, folks, this would be a different gathering if they'd have counted the votes right. A different gathering if they'd have counted the votes right. I'd be introducing the governor today. And in my mind, I'm introducing a man that has a great deal of integrity. He's an honest man, and he's a free man, and I'm proud to call him my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Gatewood Galbraith.
This right here is a real heroine here in the state of Kentucky, folks. This lady right here has more courage than anybody over in that building hurling that siren going on right now. Got more integrity than all of them put together. Thank you, Kathy. Yes, indeed. My name is Gatewood Galbraith. I'm an attorney in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm very proud to be a part of this gathering here in Paducah. I'm a son of Kentucky. I was born in Carlisle, a little town about 1,500 people, right outside of Lexington. Moved to Lexington when I was 12 years old, and pretty much got activated right from the start. Graduated from high school in 1965 and went Marines in 1966. My government at that time had convinced me that the Vietnam War was correct, and I needed to fight for freedom and kill people for freedom and die for freedom if I was a true American. And I fought that line, hook, line, and sinker. And I went to the Marines. I was 4F. I didn't have to go anywhere. I was undraftable, but I made them take me in the Marines because I'm committed to keeping America free. I spent 5 weeks on Parris Island and got discharged because I had an attack of asthma. I was 19 years old. I didn't know marijuana cured asthma, but I do now. I got out of the Marines. I started learning about what the Vietnam War was about, and I've soon learned that it was nothing about what the government was telling me it was. That in fact, this government had me misled and confused and ignorant about the most basic aspects of society and the American way of life and how this system operates. They had me as a puppet, and they had me ready to go halfway around the world and kill men, women, and children at their behest because of the way they had me thinking. And it was that lesson that taught me that what the government does and what it tells you is not always the truth. That in fact, they will propagandize you, they will lie to you, they will psychologically neuter you and your character and your dignity if they think that it will make you subject to their whims and their plans for who they think you ought to be. So when I found that out, I started questioning the government. I started questioning what it is they told me. I started questioning who they are and how they got in that position of power. I was 19 years old. When I was 21, my best friend, who had just gotten back from Bangkok, Thailand with a duffel bag full of Thai stick, got a hold of me and he said, Gatewood, he said, I got something here for you. I think it'll help you. He had seen me in my asthmatic stage. He had seen me collapse when my lungs closed up on me when I was a teenager. He had seen me be debilitated and have to be sent to the hospital because of asthma. And he brought it back and he said, "Here, Gatewood, try this. This will help you." And it did. It cured my asthma. That was in 1971, 31 years ago, and I hadn't had an attack of asthma since. I'm sorry, it was 1968, hadn't had an attack of asthma since. And so I'm unapologetic about being a champion about it. There is nobody in this country who has any kind of degree that can come to me and tell me that it doesn't work, because I know it does. It saved my life. And since that time, I've talked to thousands of people whose lives have been saved by an association with this plant. It is God's most natural, wonderful medicine. And it's people who create artificial sounds like that, who want to create artificial society and live in ignorance and disregard of the basic human condition and who we are as human beings, who are trying to displace our association with this plant. So I was active out there. I was 24 years old. I was a milkman. I was an activist, but a milkman. And I decided at that time, that was in 1971, I decided at that time that I was going to end up in jail or underneath the jail because of me and my attitude and my aggressiveness. I decided there's only 4 places for an aggressive young man like me from Kentucky to go, and that's jail, law, politics, or Tennessee. And I've been to the first 3, and I'll be damned if they're going to chase me into Tennessee. But what I decided was that I was going to start living my life as a warrior, impeccable to my own beliefs, willing to stand up and pay the price for my beliefs. I wasn't going to let the government instruct me how to believe in anything from here on out. I was going to trust my own basic sense, my own basic gut, my own basic mind and thought processes. So I decided at that time that I was going to go to college and become an attorney and become governor of the state of Kentucky and change the marijuana laws. Because then, 31 years ago, as now, the laws against marijuana and the people who are associated with it are the most vivid illustration of how the government has overstepped its bounds in policing private behavior in this society today. They have assumed a position that is absolutely indefensible in the face of the science and truth that's been generated about this plant and its role in mankind. Prior to its illegalization, it was the basis of more than 50% of the medicines on this earth. But there has been a concentrated attack on that. And here's where it's coming from. In 1912, a group of German industries and pharmaceutical companies got together and they formed a company called IG Farben. IG Farben was a consortium of the petrochemical companies and the pharmaceutical companies and the chemical companies and the industrial companies of Europe at that time. And their mission statement as a corporation was to make the human body, its ailments and its cures, their exclusive commercial domain. They set out to make sure they controlled the medicine, and they controlled health, and they controlled life on this planet. And they built all kinds of international relationships with large corporations all over the world, including General Motors and Eli Lilly and American corporations, who were kind of envious of the way that these people were able to get together and manipulate markets and manipulate their own government, which business couldn't do at that time here. So IG Farben bankrolled World War I, or World War II rather. They bankrolled the Third Reich. They bankrolled Hitler. They were all the German industrialists and corporations who came together to form the Third Reich, the Nazi nation. And they waged war on the United States. They waged war on humankind. They were fascist. They had no limitations. They had no rules on themselves. And they damn near took over the world. But they got defeated. Fascism, when they are fascists, fascism did not get defeated. The top 22 CEOs of IG Farben were convicted of war crimes. That was what the Nuremberg trials were all about, with IG Farben executives being tried. and 22 of them got convicted of war crimes. And one of them was hung, and the other 21 were sent out in exile and in prison. In 1952, David Rockefeller of Rockefeller Corporation came back and got them all pardoned and released from exile, and brought them back and put them into the American industries in kingpin positions that they had occupied in the German industries at the time they were bankrolling World War II. It was done under the auspice that we needed their intelligence to fight the Russians in the Cold War. But what actually happened was that these fascist son of a bitches were able to sink their taproot of fascism deep into the soil of American liberty and take root to where they institute and constitute a threat to the American way of life today. A threat to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the American way of life. And these people have taken over the corporate personage, over the corporate direction. And a lot of the American corporations that they were bought into are no longer American corporations. They're owned by other people. They're owned by people who have never said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America or to the republic for which it stands. And they're not warm and fuzzy about you or you or you or you or your children or your parents. They don't give a damn. They haven't grown up under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. They don't understand how important it is. All they understand is in the implementation of their New World Order and global economy, the American Constitution and the Bill of Rights are impediments to its implementation. They are. These people, they are dangerous. People say, Galbraith, who is they? I'll be glad to describe them for you. They are the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, fascist, elite son of a bitches who represent a threat to us all. And the kinds of checks and balances under our form of government, which should have kept this from happening, have been negated, have been neutralized by the extraordinary amount of special interest money that's coming into our political system and buying off our elected representatives from the top down. Anybody in the Democratic or Republican Party on a national level, except for one person, Dr. Ron Paul, out of Texas, they sold out to the New World Order. They sold out to the global economy. Our representatives have let us down, and it's time we got them replaced. We have to replace the people in office. We've tried, and let me tell you, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I've run for governor 3 times in the state of Kentucky. I ran in 1991 and 95 for the Democratic nomination for governor. 18 of the last 19 governors have been Democrats. If you win a Democratic nomination, you're pretty well in. I thought if I could win that, we'd be there. But the party froze me out. They wouldn't let me come to any party functions in both of those elections. So in 1999, I ran as an independent and was asked by the Reform Party if we would take their nomination. At that time, I had to have a lieutenant governor candidate, and I came across and wooed Kathy Lyons to join me, and that's one of the reasons I gave her a big hug when I came up here, because she had the courage, the guts to step out here and run as my running mate in the 1999 election. As I tell people, I picked her because she's from Western Kentucky, she's female, she's never been arrested, she brings real balance to the ticket. But Kathy stepped out there and was a part of it, and being outspent $3 million to $15,000, she and I got 15.3% of the vote in the state of Kentucky for governor. That's phenomenal, folks. It's phenomenal. It shows how much can be done on little resources, but a lot of elbow grease and committed people. Margaret Mead once said, "Never doubt that a small group of committed people can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has." So small groups of people can get it done. And it's never too late to be an activist. One of my heroes is Lech Walesa out of Poland, who started the Solidarity unions in the shipyards of Poland in the face of the Communist Party and the Communist government. And they took Lech and they put him in a jail cell and took away his union and took away his family and took away all his property. And there he was, a simple man sitting in a jail cell with no party, no property, no family, and the whole communist government of Poland against him, and he kicked their ass. Lech Walesa ended up being elected president of Poland. So don't let them take away what you got and make you feel hopeless or helpless. Somebody wants to ask Franz Kafka, says, Franz, what is existentialism? And Franz said, existentialism is always having a choice. And they said, well, what if they come and they take away all your property and all your family and put you in a jail cell naked? What kind of choice do you have then? He says, well, you've always got the choice about what kind of attitude you're going to take about them doing that to you. So they can never take your attitude, folks. And that's one of the reasons they're really afraid of this green natural plant. Because anyone who would step out of what they want you to be chained in and make your own decision and find out for yourself what kind of relationship you can have with this green natural plant, you got an attitude problem, and I'm damn proud of you for it. You know, if I ever wanted to be known as anything, it's as a constitutional attorney. When I found out I was capable of dedicating my life to something on which I could either kill or be killed over, when I found out how easily malleable and flexible and what a puppet I was in the hands of the government, when I decided I was going to make my own decisions about those kinds of things, I cast about to find out what was worth fighting and dying for in this lifetime. And that question for all of us who are seeking what life is about in the grand adventure of being alive in this birth-death cycle, you must answer the question, what is worth fighting and dying for in this lifetime? Some generations have it dropped inextricably in their lap, like the Vietnam War generation, or the Korean War generation, or World War II, or the Gulf War. Is America worth fighting and dying for? Is freedom worth fighting and dying for? Yes, it is. Who gets to decide when it's time to do that fighting? That's up to you. But what I discovered was the American Revolution. The American Revolution. I was 24 years old in the milkman. I didn't know the history of things. I wanted to find it out. So going to college, doing a lot of reading, I found out about the American Revolution. And let me tell you something. The American Revolution is the most fantastic political event that has ever hit this earth in modern times, in the history of mankind. What makes it that is up until the American Revolution, everything was conducted in a fascist manner. Fascism is when people exercise arbitrary power over you, or arbitrarily exercise power over you. It's like a king or a queen or a military junta. When the king says, off with your head, you're gone. You're gone. There's nothing to stop them. There's no rules to stop them. There's no rules to say they can't do that. And in that kind of society, when it's a successful society and you have surplus of gold and wheat and commodities that are valuable, it all gets laid at the foot of the king. It all accrues to the benefit of the crown or the military strongman. That's fascism. The American Revolution introduced a constitutional form of government, which is the antidote to fascism. Because what the Constitution does, it spells out specifically what the powers of government are, and otherwise they are limited in the exercise of any powers outside the Constitution. The Constitution proscribes the government from acting in a fascist manner. And the Bill of Rights came in and laid it out in even more distinct language about what the people were capable of and the rights they had that ought to be protected. But I will tell you now that because of the extraordinary amount of special interest money, because of the so-called New World Order and global economy, because so much is being decided about us as citizens by non-citizens out there, that the constitutional form of government and the limitations it puts on the powers of government to affect our private lives is in great danger right now. It is in great danger. People are not being taught about the history, the sacrifices, the battles that have been fought for us to have the right to be self-determinative. But what you must learn as a generation is that every generation must re-win its own freedoms. that the sacrifices and the blood that have been left by previous generations, they don't ensure your present freedom. Only your attitude ensures your present freedom. Only your knowledge of your constitutional rights is exercise of freedom. The Constitution is only a piece of paper with words written on it. It doesn't have a life. You must give it life, and I celebrate the fact that you're doing that right here by your presence at this in Dolly McNutt Park today. We've got to fight for the Constitution, folks. We can't let them take it. We can't let them take it. In my political gatherings around the state, the reason we got 15.3% of the vote was quite simple. That over the last couple of years, I've married up marijuana and the militia in the state of Kentucky. And the way I did that was that I went to all these people with guns. And I said, now look, do you know that hemp is petroleum? And they said, we had no idea. I said, did you know that a great deal of our foreign policies and the wars that we're led to send our children into are based on an arbitrary scarcity of fuel, and that the same people who are trying to put you in jail over this green natural plant are the same people trying to put you in jail over your guns? And they looked at me and they finally start to cog on it. We have a common enemy. That enemy is the enemy of the entire Constitution and the full spectrum of the Bill of Rights. And then I went to the marijuana smokers and said, look, we ought to get these guys with the guns smoking as much kind herb as we can. It was a natural marriage. What I'm telling them is the same thing that I'm telling you. That they have us divided over one or two issues. We may not agree on abortion. We may not agree on homosexuality. We may not agree on education. We may not agree on any one of several other basic things. But we must not let our disagreement on one or two or three issues divide us under the commonality we share as citizens of the United States, free, self-determinative citizens, all of whose rights of expression and behavior are protected by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We must come together, find the common ground, or else we will be divided and conquered by these fascist governments. You live in a republic. You're not a democracy. You live in a republic, and there's a difference. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. It doesn't say to the democracy for which it stands. It says to the republic, and what's the difference? Well, to paraphrase Benjamin Franklin, a democracy is when two wolves and a sheep sit down to vote on what's for dinner. A republic is when the sheep has access to an Uzi and can say, come get it, furballs. We live in a republic. And what gives you the moral right to say, come get it, furballs, is that you have been granted certain inalienable rights by your Creator that are outside the purview of any form of government. Be it a constitutional form, be it a fascist form, be it any other form of government, you have certain inalienable rights given to you by your Creator. They are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And this government is getting further and further away from that aim of government all the time. Government only grows at the expense of the people, so the broader and bigger the government gets, the less you have as individuals. And unless we stand up and draw the line and fight them tooth and nail at the polls and in the public arena and out here where in front of God and everybody, unless we stand up to these evil, they will prevail. But I'm not going to let them in my lifetime. And I appreciate you all being here. Thanks very much for having me.
It's Gatewood Galbraith, folks. Give him a big old Paducah, Kentucky round of applause like you mean it. I've worked with Gatewood in a lot of shows, and I have a ton of respect for this guy. We love you, Gatewood. I wish my state had a Gatewood. If Michigan had a Gatewood, I'd probably think about staying there. You know, I think I might move to Kentucky just so I can vote for Gatewood. It's a pretty deserving vote right there. If we could get 10% of the politicians in the country to think like Gatewood, our battle would be so much easier. So we got all these morons and loafers going to the Senate and Congress and being bought and sold. Bribe. A lot of politics ends up in the best interest of money. And that's where we end up with the drug war. There's a ton of money in pot being illegal. First of all, when there's somebody selling pot in your town, they're driving around in their car trying to get rid of some of their pot and make a few people happy. The governments at this point are able to take them to jail and take their cars and take their vehicles and take their houses and stuff like that. So they're growing. And so how do we get that out of the hands of the people that are here to harm us? I pay taxes on a regular basis so that I can be protected and feel safe in America, and I've never been more scared in my life. On May the 8th, because of my belief in legalizing marijuana, May the 8th at 8 a.m., I woke up with 3 police rifles pointed at my head about 3 inches away. And I opened my eyes, and I thought to myself, you know, I hope my family doesn't believe the story that they're going to print when they shoot me. Because I figured, you know, they were going to say I went for a gun or something and just blow me right away. And at that 1 second when I opened my eyes, I thought, man, this is it. You know, I never thought it would end like this. And fortunately, I must have had them scared too, because when I looked at them, their gun barrels were shaking. So I moved very, very slow, as not to alarm the people that were there to exterminate me. Sounds kind of funny. If you open up a door and a bunch of cockroaches take off running and one stays there, do you step on it? 9 times out of 10. I was lucky that day because it was that 1/10th time. And just to give you guys an idea of how the government works in Michigan, we were being questioned that our employees, we weren't withholding the proper payroll withholding for our employees, which we were. A reputable tax company was taking care of all that. So in order to serve this tax warrant, the authorities showed up at Rainbow Farm with 85 armed guards from the state police and the drug task force and the local police and the county police. And the state prosecuting attorney was there and the local prosecuting attorney was there. And just like commanders on a battlefield, the soldiers came in and they were dressed for combat and they held us all at gunpoint, much like a firing squad. We all had to stand out in the hot sun for the entire day for like 8 hours with 10 or 12 guys lined up in front of us, standing there pointing rifles at us. And that is another reason why I'm here, because our judicial process starts with a weapon. And I'm sick of that. I'm sick of going down the road and going about 5 miles an hour too fast, and the first thing I hear from the police officer when he walks up, because I have long hair, is, "Sir, will you step out of the car?" Now I know that extra 5 miles an hour that I'm getting to my destination 3 minutes earlier makes me dangerous. I'm like a ticking bomb. I could go off at any time because I was trying to get to my destination a little quicker. And I'm tired of being treated like an idiot. I'm tired of being expected to believe when they have some teenage kid come on my television at home and say, I just bought a gun for a terrorist, or I just bought a grenade for a terrorist, that's a bunch of crap. And I hope everybody sees through it just as easily as I did. Because I'm not out supporting terrorists, and I'm not out giving terrorists money. I'd rather grow my own pot so there is no money involved. Again, that would take the economy out of the drug war. If we all had our own pot and could grow our own pot, there wouldn't be a drug market. Then there wouldn't be a need for a drug war. So why, in a free country full of all kinds of people from all kinds of countries and all over the world, you can come here and become an American? So why, in America, do we call this a free country and then turn around and prosecute people for the stupidest things in this country? It makes me wonder. But it also motivates me. It also motivates me to get out here and talk to you people and try to get you to do the same thing that I'm doing and talk to people and let them know what's happening. Most people don't understand. The Partnership for a Drug-Free America is funded. Who do you think that's funded by? The taxpayers? Hell no. I don't pay any money to the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. It's funded by the chemical companies, the people that want you on Prozac and Ritalin. So the Partnership for a Drug-Free America is the biggest oxymoron that I've ever heard in my life, because they should call it a Partnership for Our Drug America. They don't want it drug-free, they want it drug-controlled. And they want your money going into their drugs, not something that you could produce, say, a month's supply for 5 cents. Pot grows better anywhere in the country, probably than any other plant. I know it grows better than corn. I've tried that theory myself. I can make pot get taller than corn quicker every year without fail. Sometimes too tall because it's so easy to see. And so what we should do is, if the police want to eradicate marijuana plants, we should give them some marijuana plants to eradicate. So instead of throwing away your seeds, keep them. And plant them somewhere. Plant them in public parks, or plant them anywhere. And then they'll have some marijuana plants to eradicate. And they'll be so busy trying to eradicate everybody's plants from everybody's seeds that they may not have time to come and kick your door in or my door in and treat us like animals. It's not uncommon for a smaller group like we have today to show up to these events, because our government has us scared into speaking out and being seen. A lot of the activist shows I've been to around the country, people tell me stuff like, well, I can't go there, I work at the post office. And I really enjoy talking to those people, because the people that tell me that they can't go to something like this because they work at the post office, I ask them, well, why not? And they say, well, somebody might see me there. And I tell them, well, if somebody saw you there, they were there too, right? One of the beautiful things about the marijuana movement is that marijuana, as we all know, opens a door to creativity. And once you understand that, there's nothing you can't do. I decided that I was going to go into kids entertainment and become a juggler and stuff. So one day I sat down and I smoked a big, fat, huge, green, sticky joint. And I thought, man, I can do this. I can learn how to juggle. And my friends were laughing. They're like, dude, you're stoned. You're never going to learn how to juggle. So I did. And we'll do some of that a little bit later today. And it's really entertaining. But I'd have to credit that creativity to smoking pot. And I want everybody to know despite what your government thinks, it doesn't make you a bad person if you smoke pot. It actually makes you a more compassionate person if you smoke pot. You become a little more in tune with your emotions and senses, more so than people that deal with the day-to-day stress and have no other way to get away from it. Some of them take drugs. Myself, I don't take drugs. I smoke pot, but I don't take any drugs. I don't believe in manufactured drugs. I think if my arm hurts, it means that I need to take it easy on that arm that day. You know, my body's telling me something. And that if I use some Pfizer drugs or something like that to make the pain go away, then I'm actually damaging my body. So I take it easy and smoke a joint and watch some cartoons. That's the best therapy. But along the lines of marijuana and creativity, one of my favorite things about doing these shows is we get all kinds of bands in and all kinds of artists. And that gives us all a common ground. Because like Gatewood said, we may disagree on a lot, but I've always found a common ground with people with music. And you'll notice that if you go to any concert and look around. Because you'll find all different kinds of people that like the same kind of music. And if we can use that same concept of different people going to a certain concert because they all have that in common, why can't we do that with pot? I hang out with doctors and lawyers and attorneys and surgeons who smoke pot. But they can't come out and say they smoke pot at risk of losing their license to practice medicine or law or whatever the case may be. But it's very real in America that the people who make America tick smoke pot. I would venture to say 75% of America smokes pot. I would also venture to say 12% of America will admit that they smoke pot. And those aren't exact percentages, but that's just my guess. And I've run into a lot of those high percentage people who smoke pot like hell, won't have it on the weekends, and won't admit it. It's hard to blame them because everyone fears for their safety. I think I'm ready for a little rock and roll. How about you folks? I came all the way down here from Michigan to get a taste of the local Kentucky flavor here and see what you guys have to offer. And so far, my experience in Kentucky has been nothing but wonderful. We had a great time. We got in last night, met a bunch of cool people, and it's going to be a really good time out here today. So if you're just hanging out today, run to a payphone, call all your friends, and say, hey man, you got to get down here to the park. There's some really cool people, and they're saying really cool things about pot. That's something we haven't done today. Let's just out and out hear it for marijuana, for whatever reason, for medicine, for fuel. Marijuana is very important as a medicine. But what you determine medicine is up to you. I like smoking pot just because it takes stress away. I like getting home from work, smoking a big joint, doing my thing. It doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad person, and we're not criminals. We shouldn't be treated as such. Cher has gone to great lengths to pull in the absolute best entertainment that Paducah, Kentucky has to offer. So I want you guys to kick back for about the next hour or so. Give a big Million Marijuana March, Paducah, Kentucky applause for Flawed Like You. Give it up. What's up, Paducah?
Man, I didn't want to get out of bed this morning and come up here. Now that I'm here, I don't think I could have done anything better today. Freedom. Fight for it.
Vengeance is mine! Vengeance is mine! stop wasting. Vengeance is mine, so saith the fraud. And to the government, come get some. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Right here in around City Hall, and all these wonderful cop type people. You gotta love them. Or not. Y'all play Anxiety. This next song is called Anxiety. Has led me to believe that in my head I am dead. Aren't you Since I left my hair to spit in my face, you said you wish me dead and gone from this place. I wish that I could hide from the emotions I feel. They say real men don't cry, so my tears everywhere. Has led me to believe that in my head I am dead. Aren't you the pressure starts to pull, I just want to explode. I start to fall back down into that fucking hole. Tired of reaching up for something I can't see. Each time I slip the word, I look up for hope. When I think that's me. my head. I am dead. Thank you, you're a beautiful crowd. Everybody. They're doing shit, so I'm gonna talk shit, that's my thing. It's a little toasty. I like it hot. I noticed something when we got here today, before we went on the march. Kind of interesting in the way we did things. All the stoners gathered up in one place, got really high, and then tried to walk around and yell like they were into it. It was beautiful. It was a perfect example of how non-aggressive stoners are. I thought it was great. Because we were all out of sync. We couldn't talk together right. It was fucking beautiful. Oh, it was awesome. It was fantastic. Anybody who went on the march, fucking more power to you. So I take another pill. Another pill. Body within myself is one of it. You left me something out here. Starting to lose, and if I lose control, the darkness consumes my soul, but demon which takes its cue. so enraged, it's something that madness needs. Get for violence indeed, that's my fault. Something that I hear started to lose. And if I lose control, the darkness consumes what's overtaken, always takes its due. For the true believers, this next song is called Self-Destructively. I lived this life in my own way, and I never gave a damn about what you might say. You can't all I can do, no matter how desperately I fucking wanna break you. Everything I ever wanted, everything I'll ever need, everything that I could have been, and everything that should be. I'm changing it all, changing it all. Nothing left of me. Change it all, change it all. Self-destructive. Just when I think I start to understand, my world falls apart and I'm broken down. Never-ending cycle of redemption and pain, filled with melodrama and emotional pain. Everything I ever wanted, everything I'll ever need, everything that I could have been, and everything that should be. I'll charge it all, charge it all. Nothing's left of me. Change it all, change it all. Self-destructive. I just can't seem to find my way, but not me. I was life each day. So yeah, I'm lost, but I am found. No matter where I stand, the blame rolls back around. Everything I ever wanted, everything I'll ever need, everything that I could have been, and everything that should be. Change it all, change it all. Change it all, change it all. Self-destructively. Everything I ever wanted, everything I'll ever need, everything that I could have been, and everything that should be. I change it all, I change it all. Nothing's left of me. I change it all, change it all. Self-destructive. Thank you very much. We are Flawed Like You from Cadiz, Kentucky. I want to thank everybody for getting our punk asses up here for you. All three of you, I love you. Y'all too, you're just lazy, I understand. Smoke me one. Everybody smoke dope and enjoy your dope day. Fuck the man.
Okay, now let's make like it's the Marijuana March, Million Marijuana March here in Paducah, Kentucky, and give Flawed Like You a big old round of applause. Now, if you guys are anywhere in town, locally, and you hear of this band, which again is called Flawed Like You, you need to go down and show them your support and go to their gigs and have a good time in exchange for the support that they're showing us today. Backwoods Metal Fest. Keep your eyes open.